An effort to honor 3 men lynched in Tennessee is being opposed because, and I can't believe I have to say this, it would be unfair and mean to white people. So the memorial is intended to honor 3 men, to remember them because of what they went through. William Guthrie and Lawrence Bowman, as well as a Jewish man, Samuel Bierfield, who were lynched in a town in Tennessee back in the summer of 1868. Here are the details on what happened prior to their lynchings. William Guthrie was murdered after the family of a white woman alleged he had sexually assaulted her, which he denied. The Ku Klux Klan attacked Bierfield for his sympathy towards black residents, including Bowman, an employee in his store, according to researchers for the Williamson County Remembers Committee. So this sounds like the story that underlies virtually every one of the many lynchings that happened across America. A claim of sexual assault, a claim of favoring black people rather than white people, of being some sort of race traitor, and 3 people lost their lives. Now, you might be wondering, who could possibly be against this? Well, critics say that there are some issues here. First, that the marker would be unfair to other victims of violent crime, and could even leave the town on the hook for financial reparations to its black residents, who make up about 6% of the population. Some worry that the monument would glorify lynchings, others that it would put the blame on all white residents. Now, is it doing that? Does it intend to do that? How would it do that? I don't know, but for some reason, some people who tend to be white conservatives find that if you acknowledge racism as well as racist violence, that for some reason implicates you. I've always felt very different than the sort of people that conducted lynchings, but others feel like that gap is not obvious for some reason. I don't understand, but I will say, Sharon, the idea that you cannot acknowledge those who died in a particular way because other people died in other ways, racism aside, is a stupid way to live your life and to run a government. But what do you make of all of it?
Well, I mean, if you want to go with this line of thinking, then predators should be allowed on school grounds because you might make them feel bad. Okay, we don't want people to feel isolated, alone, uncomfortable, embarrassed. This is absurd, and it's just, I wish people would just scream out, "We hate black people, we hate Jewish people, or we prefer to be blind." That would be something I wouldn't necessarily respect, but at least I could look at it and I could look them in the eye and know where I stand, where you stand. And we don't have to play this little game. It's a game, and it's a horrific one that denies horrific things that happened in America. It didn't happen, I misspoke there. These were perpetrated against people, and we should not forget that.
Well, some people would really prefer that you do forget about it. There was a candidate, Gabrielle Hansen, former alderman, who posted this, ended up losing the race, by the way, while running for mayor of Franklin, and says, these markers tell a one-sided story, focusing solely on strife, violence, racism, and anti-Semitism, while leaving out the many uplifting and virtuous stories of our city's history. I think they're allowed to tell a one-sided story, because that's what it was. It was strife, and it was hatred, and it was racism, and it was anti-Semitism. That's what it was. Any particular monument does not need to tell in totality the story of a town. How would that work? Like, I've always thought that the Vietnam Memorial is really focused on like people dying in Vietnam. It should really talk about how other good things have happened in Vietnam. What are you talking about? That's so obviously stupid that you clearly couldn't mean that. It's just that in this particular case, it really makes us look bad if you remind people that there's racism in our past. It might make people wonder, could there be racism in our present or our future? And we don't want them to be thinking about that. But by the way, and some of you in the audience are probably already wondering about this, they don't want this memorial, but you know what memorial they do have? They have a Confederate monument in Nashville. Now, not the same exact town, but that's allowed for some reason. How many uplifting stories does that monument talk about, by the way? Because that's the only kind that's allowed after all. For more political news breakdowns, interviews, stories of activism, and me trying my hardest to care about the occasional big celebrity news story, subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/The Damage Report. And you can ring the bell wherever it is so you don't miss anything.